in the wrist. Still don't think it's enough to crush bone.
All my force that I'm putting on the pulley system is being distributed across the area of that rope. So therefore, it's actually not allowing the skin to tear. So what I say is we get a smaller rope to see if we can tear through the skin.
Swapping out half-inch rope for quarter-inch will give the X-Rack more bite because the thinner rope will focus the compressive forces on a smaller area.
With the X-Rack, the different sized ropes would be very important for the torturer. You're applying compressive forces on the person's joints. The thicker the rope, you can distribute that load over a greater area. The thinner the rope, it's going to be concentrated in a very small area, and therefore it could actually slice into the wrist. To simulate exactly like I did with the half-inch, try to go slow as we go through it. I already got quite a bit of force on this already.
Yeah, and it's not cutting into the flesh. It's definitely compressing. You can see the flesh bulging around it, but it's not cutting into anything yet. Sinking deeper and deeper. I think that may be the sound of the rope.
Yeah, I think it is.
Breaking. Oh!
Yep, broke the rope.
The thinner rope couldn't handle the powerful compressive forces generated by the X-Rack.
Still have the indentation. That still doesn't seem as deep as the other one.
Yeah, I was going to say the thicker rope actually looks like it went deeper.
Yeah.
So now you can see that what this machine was basically designed for was to put a clamping, crushing force on the wrists and ankles, but not to break the bones.
As you apply this crank or tourniquet around the ankles and around the wrists, you're basically going to cut off the blood supply to the hands and to the feet. What this will eventually do is cause these appendages to die and become infected. You're also quite likely to cause nerve injuries, which will make you unable to use your hands or use your fingers to grasp things.
Though the X-Rack can't slice through victims' limbs, it can cause enough pain to slice through their will to resist an inquisitor's demands. Although the physics of tension give the X-Rack a lethal grip, those same forces make modern household conveniences highly effective, like wire egg slicers and cheese cutters. Coming up, an Inquisition machine that peels away deception and dissent. During the Inquisition, torturers use a few infamous machines time and again to extract confessions. But they occasionally employ more obscure devices. One machine that reportedly springs from the Spanish Inquisition has a reputation for getting under the skin. They call it the skin peeler. The year 1809. As Napoleon's army sweeps through Spain, a French colonel allegedly leads his men in a battle against an Inquisition stronghold just outside Madrid.
The French colonel tells a story of liberating a torture chamber where he came across a mechanical device designed to cut away flesh from the accused. Hence the name, the skin peeler.
The skin peeler, according to the French colonel's description, is a machine that rotates two wooden discs affixed with metal blades. Each rotation of the two hand cranks sends the knives spinning. The skin peeling process begins when interrogators tie the victim onto a fixed horizontal beam. Next, they bring both ends of the skin peeler together, so all of the knife blades face each other while wrapping around the victim. As the interrogators rotate the discs, the blades reportedly shave off slices of skin until the victim is completely flayed.
There's a couple problems with that. One, a human being is not round. Second of all, the blades, if they did touch on the outside, would bend and bow. Some of the forces alone, while spinning this fast, if you notice, those blades are starting to bow, which would technically keep them away from the human.
When French soldiers grasp the naked brutality of the skin peeler, they reportedly become so enraged that they turn the machine on its makers, using it to execute the Spanish inquisitors. But can the skin peeler actually torture and execute victims, as this historical account describes? To find out, a replica of the machine will try to flay a simulated human made of rubber.
We're about to test the skin peeler. We want to find out if it'll actually work, if the blades can possibly touch the dummy. So what we want to do is find out the speed that we have to rotate these blades. The slower the speed we do, the straighter they will be, and the better odds we have of actually hitting the dummy.
I'm going to be attempting to match Eric's speed on this machine, and with this design, try to see if the blades will hit the calves or the legs of the dummy.
Michelle, so let's start off somewhat slow to see what happens, and then start slowly speeding it up to a constant speed.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
just watch you and try to match it.
All right, you ready?
Okay? Yeah.
When the skin peeler's blade hits the dummy, it's not a close shave. The knife actually strikes his arm and completely stops the machine's momentum.
Ah. So basically, the person would just have this blade digging into their skin.
Yeah, but because the dummy is basically made out of rubber, it's a lot thicker than skin, a lot harder than skin. So that is something we got to think about.
To generate enough power to flay the dummy, the crank arms must spin quickly. But because the knives are so long and flexible, centripetal acceleration pulls the knives outward as they spin, rendering the machine harmless to the victim.
A little bit faster. You can see the blades are actually splaying out quite a bit. So this would be about the force you need to generate to slice through the body with that many blades.
It's not even getting close to him.
Now,
When its blade slow, the skin peeler begins hitting the dummy at all angles. The device isn't flaying the victim, it's slicing deep into his body.
maybe this is a little bit more devastating than I first thought, that the blades, instead of taking small slices off, are actually going to slice into the person.
These wounds would be painful, but it's not clear that they're life-threatening. To get a better sense of what the machine will do when it hits human flesh, the skin peeler will slice into a large ham. The ham approximates human skin and muscle tissue.
So that's slicing actually kind of from underneath. Oh boy. I mean, I'm just seeing this blade right now and it's just hacking pieces off of this flesh. I mean, there's no precision to it whatsoever. This is not a small surgical skin peeler machine. This is just hacking away at you.
The peeler is clearly better at cutting pork chops than pork skin.
I definitely think that we got our results for our test. The flexibility of the blades is, which I thought was going to be a hinder to the machine, is actually helping it out, but at the same time it is the reason why we are hacking, not slicing. So it's a double-edged sword, per se.
So skin peeler is just basically a misnomer, but that doesn't make this device any less deadly.
Based on these tests, it's possible French soldiers could have used the skin peeler to execute Spanish inquisitors 2 centuries ago. But it would have been incredibly inefficient, and the machine's killing power is hit or miss. This leads some experts to believe the skin peeler may be more of a malicious myth than a machine of malice.
It was a device that was possibly used as propaganda to discredit the Catholic Church, especially at a time when there was backlash against the Inquisition.
Today, modern conveniences use the same principles as the skin peeler to flay vegetables with precision. Just stick the object on a spike and operate the crank mechanism. It rotates against an angled blade that peels the skin in one long strip. As agents of the Inquisition continue their quest to root out religious deviants, their interrogation machines go from bad to brutal. And there is one machine that grinds away at humanity. They call it the revolving drum.
The point of the revolving drum was to get the accused to spill their guts, both figuratively and literally.
The revolving drum is a large hand-cranked cylinder covered with metal spikes. A wood casing supports the drum and the victim. At the head of the revolving drum, a hinged wooden frame immobilizes the victim's neck. On the other end, a leather strap clamps down on the legs. As the drum rotates, the metal spikes tear and shred at the abdomen.
With this lever arm, it allows the interrogator to very easily create the friction necessary to get a confession out of the person. So the more weight the person has on the drum, the greater the friction, the more it could probably penetrate some of the abdomen area.
During the Spanish Inquisition, interrogators get many suspected heretics to spill their guts by simply showing them the revolving drum. If they don't comply, inquisitors strap them to the machine.
The revolving drum was by no means a common device during the Inquisition. Even the idea of this machine is enough to show the great lengths that an interrogator would go to elicit a confession.
Historical accounts describe the revolving drum causing deep wounds in the victim's chest after just one revolution. But can this machine generate enough cutting force to slice the abdomen open?
All right. Okay, so it is moving, and it's not that hard to move. And now you're putting more pressure?
Yep.
Okay, so, all right. And I mean, this is pretty difficult to turn. I can't imagine an interrogator being able to do this for really long periods of time. All right, so now we're gonna check how much damage was done. I could see little bits of it already coming off towards the front. Okay, and it just shredded the skin.
The spikes have caused serious injury, creating deep abrasions in the pig flesh.
You can see it definitely lacerated the skin. And, you know, as that happens, the person's going to start bleeding. That's going to start acting as a lubricant for the wheel. The wheel will be even easier to turn, making the interrogator's job that much easier.
But can the revolving drum disembowel its victim as legends describe? A dummy with simulated organs will find out. The foam skin will break at about the same time a human abdomen would rupture.
Whoa, that's hard.
Oh, geez. All right. So it's moving his whole body forward. Oh, geez. So it's basically getting caught in the abdomen and ripping right through. Is it?
It's actually tearing into the foam.
After just a few rotations, the sharp spikes completely gut the dummy.
It's easier now to do it with the lubrication than it was at the very, very beginning, right?
That is
Even
correct.
though you're tearing through new foam?
Yep. Yeah, because the lubrication is definitely helping out.
Okay.
Let's see what we got.
Oh, yeah. We definitely have a lot of tearing through the foam.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, if a human was on this and all of his internal organs, you know, with the force of gravity,
Right.
were placed down on the abdominal wall, I mean, if this ripped through enough, it certainly could be fatal.
This machine definitely works.
So the revolving drum could have disemboweled victims. It may have taken more than a single turn to accomplish its macabre task. These tests prove the revolving drum lives up to its reputation as a gut-wrenching machine of malice. While the revolving drum is an abomination to humanity, the modern-day belt sander exploits the same physical principles. A spinning drum powers the belt, which generates enough friction to hone down large pieces of wood. Many of the machines invented during the Inquisitions exhibit their creators' remarkable understanding of physics and engineering, but inquisitors use these principles to achieve the very worst ends: to maim, torture, and mutilate victims without executing them. Today, inquisitors are rightly condemned for harnessing gravity, friction, and heat to create some of history's most malicious machines.
接下来，都市生活是从人类祖先以狩猎为主的部落生活形态进化而来的吗？凯拉库尼博士带你一起去寻找答案，走出古埃及，接着播出。